Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome in. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays to the Maize and Blue Reviews. Good afternoon, Michigan football, presented by On3. We'd love to see you there. Hope you get everything you want this Christmas season. And if you're a Michigan fan, it starts with a head coach, and we have developments. Woo! Yeah, coming in. It's perfect timing to do the show here today. A new name, and the name just kind of pops a little bit. Gotta admit, the names that have been circulating, like, meh. But this one, and it's a name that's been mentioned a number of times. I have to admit myself that I glossed over it because the guy didn't fit my profile, and I come find out he actually does fit the profile. So without further ado, let's jump right into it, and the possibility of Michigan having their next head coach. You see the list. The Kalen DeBoer, Michigan maybe, waiting till 2026. I have to wait till next year, at least, with Alabama and Indiana poised to play in the Rose Bowl on New Year's Day. That would be the earliest. What, you lose that game? Hey, Michigan. That never seemed realistic to me. It seemed realistic when Alabama was playing Oklahoma, and if they lost that game, I scratched DeBoer off the list, but his name is still there. And with Michigan, with all the other names, everybody kind of just turning up their nose at seemingly everyone. It's like it was going to be DeBoer or bust, but a new name has entered the chat, and that is Todd Monken, who is not Jeff. I get the two confused myself. Jeff is Todd's brother, who is coaching at Army. Todd is currently the offensive coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens. We're in action tomorrow on Christmas Day. But Todd Monken, when you look at things, I don't know, whatever your checklist looks like, my checklist was personally that you had to have head coaching experience prior, and that you didn't have any ties to Jim Harbaugh. I don't like saying that because Jim Harbaugh was Jim Harbaugh, and so many people hold him in such high regard. But you also understand why, getting away from that, without the, you have to sit around trash Jim or anything. You can understand that. So those two things, I think you should be able to understand. If you can't, okay, all right, you can't understand it. And Todd Monken fits that because he was a head coach prior. And let's see, can we look at his particulars? I believe we can. Here's some of them. He is the OC with the Ravens. Innovative. This is a little write-up that they have on Monken. Balanced schemes that maximize personnel. Sounds good. Led elite offenses at Georgia to 2 national titles. That's a nice one. That should be that's a bullet point. I mean, there's no arguing that. He was the offensive coordinator for Georgia when they won 2 national titles. That's nice. Lamar Jackson had an MVP season. Lamar freaking Jackson. Now, Lamar Jackson has been hurt this year. He's my fantasy quarterback. I'm benching him for Jacoby Brissett heading into the championship, which is not something I'd ever thought that I would do. But, here we are. But that's aside. He's Coach Lamar, and he's got a lot of pro and college experience. And the college experience has, you think, is he going to know about the Midwest? That's a big deal to me. I know others are like, it's nice, but not a big deal, or certainly not a deal breaker. I don't know if it was a deal breaker to me, but I liked someone who had been around this area and knows a little bit. EMU, how's that? That's as close as you can get without coaching at Michigan, but Notre Dame and with the Browns. I mean, he knows the Midwest, and he's been with the Ravens for a couple years prior to that at Georgia, and with the Bucks. Says developed Crab Legs Winston. Also was an offensive coordinator for the Browns. Here's the head coaching experience at Southern Miss. And you look at Southern Miss, you look at his record, and you're like, he wasn't all that good at Southern Miss. Southern Miss in 2012 was 0-12. And then Monken came in, and the first year he went 1-11. The second year he was there, they went 3-9. Those aren't very good years, obviously. But then a 9-5 season at Southern Miss, and it was good enough there for the Browns to say, hey, we'll take you. We'll take you out of college. Why not come and be our offensive coordinator? Explosive passing with strong running. That's his adaptability and a balanced offense. So those are things. Grand Valley. Ended up going to Grand Valley. So he definitely knows the area. He'd know a little bit, John Harbaugh, a friend of the program, being able to get the lowdown. Hey, what kind of leader is he? What those kind of things. Now, I'm talking about it and acting like he, is the leader at this point. And he very well may be the leader. Part of this is that you just look through the other candidates, and there's not, you have to admit to yourself that there's not there's no Jim Harbaugh, back in the day coming from the 49ers. There's no grand slam hire. There's not a home run hire. So you have to deal with that. And I think you also should deal with the parts where unless you feel like you're completely desperate and you say, well, they got to go with a coordinator because there's nobody else. And so that's reaching, that's being desperate. And it doesn't, to me, it doesn't fit the mandate and of having obviously previous coaching experience and then, not being from the Harbaugh tree. He fits all of that. And the other names, Jeff Brom, there's a lot of people, I'm just getting a sense from the fans. Jeff Brom at best is like, all right. It's not, I don't know what it would be, in terms of, if I'm talking in baseball with Jeff Brom, you infield single, like you feel get on there, but you get on base. It's the same thing with Whittingham. Whittingham's like, whoa, there's some nice things about Whittingham, and then also it's like, God, Whittingham. What? These are the guys who are dealing with. A lot of people had eyes for Dillingham, and you notice how the fans are completely upset with Dillingham. I don't know myself, and I felt like this the whole time. If Dillingham didn't like the cold weather and he was going to turn down Michigan no matter what, and they knew that there's at least some kind of interest there, was it the best move for Michigan to save face in the long run, not in the short run? Because in the long run, saying, well, we're not even going to offer him because we know he's not going to take the job, and it incensed Michigan fans because you went into last weekend thinking it's either going to be DeBoer or it's going to be Dillingham, and when DeBoer won his game, then all attention turned to Dillingham, and then the next morning he's like, no, I'm signing an extension at Arizona State. Michigan didn't even offer me, and it just fired everybody up. Michigan doesn't know what they're doing running this search, and I understand the ire of the Michigan fans who are fully invested in this, and young, hot, successful coach who took his team to the college football playoff, but he didn't like the cold weather, or he wanted to be the next Mark Few of college football. And so Michigan in the long run, how they save face is that whoever the new coach ends up being, this is the guy that we had targeted all along. We were very interested in him. And people would say, yeah, but what about Dillingham? And we never offered him. So, so as much as you might have wanted to offer him, you see that there's a little bit of finesse there. I know, again, there's a lot of people that do podcasts like this, and look, it pays to get fired up and scream and yell and act like Michigan doesn't know what they're doing and get angry. I mean, it works. It works for people coming on in. So I'm going to circle back to Monken, and his name is it is hot right now. When you think about it, the Whittingham's name and Brom a little bit, over the last couple of days, I've noticed that there's been some. It almost seemed like he was in the lead to get the job. Louisville played yesterday, and Brom came out and said, "I don't talk about other jobs." And that was nothing. I mean, he was going to be asked, and he was going to say something, and he didn't say, "No way." He said he doesn't talk about the job, so his name is still in there, and you got to have some fallback candidates, and you have to have some other candidates, and everything else, and that's why you got guys like Fleck and Key. These names are just thrown out there, but Monken seems to have some traction to it, at least from for me. For me, that, again, you're someone, if you were expecting a prime rib tomorrow on Christmas Day, and they bring out that silver platter with that, I don't know, that's the silver dome over it, and you're getting ready, and you got your knife and fork in your hand, and they open it up, and it's a rotisserie chicken. I don't know, chicken. Instead of the prime rib, right? This is not what I would want. It's not what I look forward to. And a lot of Michigan fans are feeling like that. And it's an uneasy time. And you're nervous. Usually you have, you pay attention to Michigan people, you insulate yourself, you don't want to hear all the negativity around. And then you had one of Michigan's own blasting the program the other day with Biff up there undressing the football program. Suddenly everybody turned on Biff, get this guy out of here. What's he saying? Why is he being negative towards Michigan? So it just brings us back to where we're at right now. Out of the, I don't want to call them lumps of coal, out of the names that are being bandied about, and maybe, there's something else out there. I like Monken over Brom. I like Monken over Whittingham. And again, that was my mistake, thinking that he didn't have the, the previous coaching experience. That was going to be, that felt like a deal breaker for me when it came down to it. And the part when you get to these coaching searches, it's weird to me. If I'm the athletic director and I've got whoever I confide in, Sean McGee, GM, a couple others that have been there with me, when I get into the office and say, all right, we're going to conduct this search, and then we're also going to bring in Lock Key or whatever their name is. They're going to do the background checks. What we really want to do with this is we want to control the narrative. We don't want any gossiping. We don't want, the leaks. Let's keep this a tight circle. And yet the people are acting like there is leaks and there is gossip. And what I would like, I don't know even how realistic this is. Next head coach, the administration, I don't know if coaches do this. Tell everybody, hey, shut your guys' mouths. You guys run around, I'm going to say like a bunch of school kids or whatever else. This isn't our Kardashians. You don't have to pick up your phone, every Michigan insider. I know they're calling you and texting you left and right and say, hey, We're conducting a search. We'll let you know when something's going on. But, you get a lot of different mouths to feed and a lot of people that want to be in the loop and then act like they're in the loop and all this other stuff. So, what to believe or not every day, and it is a monster, the Michigan fan base, and they want to be fed. They want something. So you gotta throw them something. But as I sit here right now, maybe Michigan is just chilling for DeBoer. That always felt full-hearted to me after the win over Oklahoma. But what do I know? I still feel like that. I was like, well, what are they waiting for? Who else? There's a pro guy? How long are they going to wait? Are the playoffs? Playoffs? What about another coach that's in the college football playoffs? Because why not just hire someone? Why wait, dilly-dally around? When the transfer portal, when transactions are being done right now, officially January the 2nd, but guys, they're going to get very uneasy. They're on their phones. They're getting offers. And Michigan, as much money as they could possibly throw everybody and anything else, trying to tell people like, oh, just hang on. We got a plan. Everything else. And everybody's like, what's the plan? Who's the coach? I'm out. So the Ravens, you look at all the playoff scenarios and everything else, they're way over to the right in the hunt. And they're playing the Packers tomorrow and no Lamar Jackson. He didn't practice today. It didn't look like he's going to play. It's about to be over. And then, so Monken is about to be freed up here. And John Harbaugh could be saying, I don't know, there's at least a chance. I think a lot of people will say stupidly that the Ravens would, say goodbye to John Harbaugh, but there's a chance. Sometimes you just come to an end with it, and it could be that the Ravens are like that. But with Monken, it's a name that it feels right to me. It feels right to me over all of the other names, at least right now, that are being put up there. And I understood why Michigan would want DeBoer over somebody like Monken, Kenny Dillingham over somebody like Monken. But now that we're going over the rest of them and putting them up there, to me, Monken is at the top of the list. DeBoer, again, waiting around, but waiting for what? They got a deal. Courtney Morgan's already in town, sniffing around, or I don't know. Is he up in the football office? Checking the diamond. I don't know what he's doing. That part, but so let me see if I can put it with a nice, neat bow. Maybe Michigan is. I can't completely rule it out because sometimes there's an apple over your eye, and you say, okay, we feel like we got a deal in place. We feel really strongly that no matter what happens, that we'll still have a shot with DeBoer. Woo! I mean, okay. So there is that chance. Now, I know technically that Biff, I know he's persona non grata now to Michigan fans after he trashed the program. Biff said that Manuel told the players on Monday, just 2 days ago, that there'd be a coach in place by the bowl game. Now, look, the bowl game for the Rose Bowl is the next day. So, it's close enough where you could say, okay. The bowl game, the Michigan bowl game. You say, oh, he was talking about the Rose Bowl. I don't know. You filthy animals. Is that from what's the John Animal House? I think that's what that's from. B. Bowles is saying no Brom with a side of English. Yeah, Ron English, who has been around the block here. He certainly knows the area. He coached at Michigan, coached at Eastern Michigan, and people are fearful of Ron English. Look, You don't like Brown, that's fine. It's understandable. Patrick says, feel like they have to make a hire before the game. I don't know. The game, I don't want to say it's meaningless because I like watching Michigan football, but it doesn't feel like it has much going for it right now. It'll change maybe when I get to next week or whatever, but the big part is that you're counting down the days where all of the players, they're all in limbo. That's the thing. So sooner you can get them out of limbo, and at least they know who the coach is, and then they can make a decision. Because right now, with everybody calling and saying, "Hey, let's go. You've got an offer. Let's do it." Standing offer, and guys are like, "Well, just hang on. There, just think you're uneasy. You're nervous. I think these players and their parents, and then you had Poggi on Monday, and everybody's trying to, hold the line, and it's becoming, January 2nd, so when it's official, but I would say that no kidding that they should have it by the bowl game because of the transfer portal. Give them a couple days, like, January 1st. Announce it. Rip Star feels like they're likely waiting for DeBoer. Hey, you might be right. And you better know what you're doing if you're Ward Manuel. You better already have a deal. I don't know if you can have a deal in place no matter what. Are you really going to leave? It doesn't make, I don't say it doesn't make sense. Oh, is Tuscaloosa, a bunch of hillbillies. I don't know. What? They haven't been fair to me or whatever else. I got news to the DeBoers that if he didn't make the playoffs in his first year. If he doesn't make the playoffs in his first year, there's going to be a lot of Michigan fans that aren't going to like him. If he comes up here and is, pass happy and can't run the ball and is 110 in rushing, going to be a lot of people that don't like him either. And are going to be convinced that, that he's a bad fit. So, he knows that. I know that. You know that. And so DeBoer has to know that. He's in a really good spot. I know you could, what would be the argument? Oh, they just don't have the money. Michigan has either an NIL or for him personally, it's a big raise and they got off on the wrong foot. So, the next spot always feels like we get a clean start. I mean, those, I guess, would be the arguments. J-Dub. Yes, the person that I didn't actually hear him say it, but the person that said that they saw Courtney Morgan was Stoney, Mike Stone from 97.1. I didn't hear, how Stoney, that he just was Stoney at the airport. Was somebody tell Stoney? I don't know that part, but I know Stoney he's not gonna make something up like that. Like that guy kind of looks like Courtney Morgan. So I believe he is in town or was in town. So J-Dub saying he heard he may have spoke to the team. Yeah, I didn't see that part. I don't know who said that. The extent of my knowledge is that Mike Stone said that he saw Courtney Morgan. Now, I didn't see if that was in a tweet. I wasn't able to look and say that, he thought that was Courtney Morgan. Somebody told him that it was Courtney Morgan, that kind of thing. Rip putting the Monken record up there, and 13-25. Sure, you look at that, you're like, But again, 0-12 when he took over, and then he just won one game, 1-11, and then in a second year won 3 games. But then here it is, 9-5. So he did turn it around. It's nothing where you're like, oh, this is the greatest coaching job ever at Southern Miss, but it wasn't like he went after they went 0-12, 1-11, won 3 games, and then won 5 games. It was like, I'm out of here. He did a nice job in his third year. Why are we not looking at Heupel at Tennessee and Dabo? Oh. Dabo Sweeney. I don't. If he leaves Clemson, he would be going to Georgia or somewhere in the South. I don't see Dabo Sweeney ever coaching at Michigan. And Josh Heupel, I know he's Oklahoma, Tennessee. You're not looking at him because you're not going to be able to get a guy like that. When you're talking about Tennessee, Michigan's a better football program than Tennessee, but it's tough to pull a guy like that. And he's more pullable. You could pull him. You're not going to be able to pull Dabo. Todd Monken is a great OC. Well, he's an accomplished OC. There's no doubt about that. I don't know about Morgan and his family situation. Well, thank you, Matthew. Merry Christmas to you and your family. I hope everyone else, has a great holiday. I tell you what, we are ready here. I can tell you that. There's Donald, not feeling the Christmas cheer, not feeling my vibe with Monken. He says, what the hell are we talking about with Monken? Are you serious? Before we hire this crap, give me Whittingham. Well, here's the advantages to me. Well, I would say that just, taking a look at it, it's one of those things where you get in a conversation, maybe a Zoom, and you're sitting with Kyle Whittingham and you talk. You're like, he's got a lot of, you look at his resume. We can all do that. Oh, hey, Utah, BYU's been out there. Nice coach. He's regarded as one of heading into the season as a top 15 coach in college football. He's a little long in the tooth. He doesn't know anything about this area. Never been. He's barely been across the the Mississippi. So he's a West Coast or Utah guy. You always lump the Utah in with the West Coast, but so those are the downsides. But with Monken, he knows this area and he's a very accomplished offensive coordinator. And he has head coaching experience. So that's why the hell. And look, I'm not for a sales job. I just look at it. I think again, what it comes down to, and I'm not saying that Monken knocked some interview out of the park, but based on my experience, I've heard many times from coaches, athletic directors, or GMs that when they're doing these searches that they know in the first minute, they clicked, they had their presentation, man, they were just sold. And that could have been going on. You could say that could be going on with Whittingham, but I'll bet you that whoever the next coach is, they will talk about that. So I'm not really dismissing anyone, but just based on the Midwest ties and Monken's resume in age compared to Whittingham, I like him a little more. Got to make the right hires. Both of those guys will with their staff and everything else. But, you think Whittingham, a lot of people say the same thing. We'll look at Whittingham and say, why the hell are you talking about? Some guy that's, that's ready to be put out the pasture. Oh, that's not right. Is damn near 70 years old. None of that's nice because you could be listening and saying, what are you talking about putting anybody out of the pasture? Ripstar saying Biff is doing more harm than good every time he opens his mouth. Yeah, I was under the thought, and you haven't heard me sit here one time. You can go through every podcast that I've done and say, why not just keep Biff around for a year or two or three? Well, the transition that never made any sense to me. It didn't make any sense to me. There was no other team in the country that was going to hire Biff. And so you're saying, well, he could retain the players. Oh, you think so? But you really think so? You're a player like, oh, Biff. Players say stuff like that, but really, they're looking at it. I don't think he was ever going to be the head coach. He's just got to hold this thing together. As far as him being, negative and putting Michigan on blast and everything, I know that sucks for folks. And you've never, if you're a Michigan fan and you go back to 2021 and you enjoyed all the winning and the championships and beating Ohio State and the Natty and, just so awesome. But then when all the negativity came in, you're like, all right, hey, cheeseburger, the hell with it. Stallions, misunderstood. And so every single none of that was all bad. That's word fault. All of it together, I mean, there are issues with it. At some point, you don't have to, as a fan, deal with it. But what you do have is parents and players, and they're watching the evening news. And evening news, isn't, I know maybe some people have looked through maybe the anchors there and said, oh, that guy went to Michigan State. That's why he's at some point, the national news, when it was on with Moore and saying, Michigan, it's just one thing after the other. You do at least, I don't know how much as a fan, again, you don't have to, you never have to. You can just continue to say, the NCAA went after Harbaugh. The same thing with Stallions. It's all joke. They're being unfairly targeted. It's a witch hunt, which I've heard many times. Or you say, this is an accumulation of things here. It was great. I would trade it all. What went on from 21 to 23. But I'm not sitting around telling everybody that it's a bunch of Sparties and this is Ohio State. You have to look at people that they're real people out there and are looking at it. And what Biff did is tell everyone, hey, should he have just, told everybody, no, that was all a witch hunt. Come on to Michigan. Whatever we got going on, the AD, he'll be gone soon. I don't know what you want him to tell the parents. Because the parents are like, wow, it's really messy there. Is Biff supposed to be like, nope. No, it's not. Nothing messy here. It's Michigan. But enough with that. One part is, I address it, get to it, but I'm not sitting here every day and hammering you over the head like, oh, yeah, Michigan, repent. I don't have to do that. Hoosierine is Monken a carpetbagger? He sure jumped a lot. He doesn't call him a carpetbagger. That was me inserting my own opinion on this. Let me just read it. He sure jumped around a lot. College football to pros to college football. That is true. And fans' minds, there's not, I don't know, the fans, they were DeBoer and Dillingham. That was it. That was the tier. The second tier is where we're at right now. And give me 100 Michigan fans. Nobody's all sitting around like, yay, Brom. You can get some people that are like, Brom, the Whittingham, kind of same thing. None of it. I like Whittingham over Brom too, but I like Monken over Whittingham. That's where I'm at. Maybe I should have just come out. I think I did say that, but maybe I should have just. That's where I'm at. There is no flashy hire. Hadley is talking about Tyrone Wheatley. His name has been mentioned as a possible candidate. What do you think? And I have my eggnog and rum. to toast for a nice Christmas. I expect you do the same. Salute. But let me start with the second half of that first. There is some eggnog. Guernsey eggnog in the refrigerator. There is some rye whiskey down there, Hadley. But my wife is putting together. It has been a little bit, Thanksgiving, I had a few beers, but since then I have not. And so here we are heading into tomorrow, and I saw her with some gin and some ginger beer and I don't know, fig. She's getting in there. She's gonna make herself up some drinks. So I might try one. I don't know yet. We're gonna see what happens with Christmas. It comes down to that. Biff sounds like the drunk uncle at the Thanksgiving table. Rip, you've said a lot of funny things. As somebody who's contributed here, I find this to be one of the funnier ones that you have said. Chris Kringle flying in for the job. It's funny when you say, Chris Creighton. I thought you were going to say from Eastern. He wouldn't have to fly in. He could ride his bike over from Eastern Michigan. But I thought I was being a little bit funny when I was just throwing some. I was going to put the names. This is the thumbnail for the podcast. I inserted some maize and blue bulbs for the Christmas tree, and I put a block M up at the top. And then I was just throwing some names, you get the Boers and Brom. And I did put Santa Claus on there. Why not? Feel a little bit make-believe. Rich. Hey, Rich. What's up, man? It's good to see you. It's good to see Rich. What is a Grand Slam hire? Someone who can navigate NIL and be a great recruiter. A Grand Slam was Jim Harbaugh. Someone who was a great Michigan player, went on and had success in college and in pro, could have got a pro job, maybe not that immediately, but after 1 year, I would have thought that he could, but he ended up coming back to his alma mater, a Michigan man. That's a Grand Slam hire. There's none of those out there. You could say DeBoer was a home run. That was just close. And you could also have said Dillingham. It's a good point where you coach, you got to be able to coach, got to be able to lead men, be a CEO, but you need a team. You need a great GM, and they got to be in on personnel. They got to be on all of that. There's no doubt. Then you need the thing is that for Michigan, it appears that they've got the funding. They're in the Big Ten. They're positioned really well. The parts that I don't know if it's struggling, that they've got a lot of they're not university aligned. Lord Manuel could be gone as soon as they make this hire, and it would be a way. But it will Ward Manuel. I would say that it'd be more than likely that he would not be the athletic director at this time next year. And who's going to say? Nobody would really argue with that. In fact, if I put April out there, I don't know how many people would argue with it. So you've got a dead man walking as athletic director. Jordan Acker's, DMing psychopaths and, getting everything aired out. He's getting, he is a politician, but, so he's putting, was against Harbaugh because he had Republican leanings. And then he also, put Denise Illich in there, so everybody, that ended up being a real cluster blank. Jordan Acker, he seems like a rotten apple or rotten apple. I'll go back to he seems like a rotten apple. You got an interim president So there's no alignment there. That's where what they don't have. This next head coach can just be like, you're going to have to deal with that. But yeah, GM and NIL, you got those things. It's not, normally you think, man, Michigan's perfect. But even when you thought they were perfect, they couldn't pay players. They weren't paying players. They could have, but they didn't, back in the day. So there's always a little something that can be worked on. The university alignment, Monken is nice, but has risk. The thing about the risk now is that I don't feel like myself that I'm a knee-jerk type Michigan football analyst or whatever you'd want to call me. I thought that Sharon Moore should have gotten this year, and it was ridiculous to suggest otherwise. Now, if I would have known that what was going on, obviously that would not have been ridiculous. But there were certainly people that were like, nope, out now. He can't coach out of a wet paper bag. And I didn't really think that was productive at all. You're not going to give a guy 3 years. And I know Jonathan Smith got 2 years. Hell, Rich Rodriguez got 3 years. But it is, you say that's a different time. Let's just say it's Monken. He comes in. Next year, people keep pointing to it. It's a tough schedule. They're going to lose 4 games no matter what. I'm not ready to concede that. But if they don't make the playoffs next year, you're not going to fire a guy after 1 year unless it just, he just goes belly up. But 2 years and you just don't see it. Let's just say it's Todd Monken. You're just not. He's whatever. He gets Bryce Underwood, and Underwood falls flat on his face. I hate talking about all these things but look at that. There it is a possibility. What I'm saying is they could be right back in this spot in 2 years. I don't think you're sitting around thinking, oh, you got to give them. I like to give guys time, but. It's also it's microwave now. It's ChatGPT. Let's go ChatGPT. Let's get the next names out there. Full search, right, John? John was always in favor, even though John doesn't return my DMs. But that's okay. You didn't have to, John. John was all about a full search. Hire an elite staff. John likes Monken. How about that? It comes with an endorsement from John. Oh, Trevor, it's been a long time since we've seen you. Merry Christmas. The last part about that, a Happy New Year, it's going to depend on what happens here. I'm going to tie my happiness for the rest of 2025. This is not a smart thing to do, but I'm going to do it. I am hitching my happiness to the wagon of Michigan football. I am either going to be happy or I'm going to feel like I'm going to be in a ditch when it comes down to it. Oh, Tyrone Wheatley. The rip. Tyrone Wheatley, it's tough for me because Tyrone Wheatley, I love Tyrone Wheatley. I love Tyrone. There's, when you say Michigan man, Tyrone Wheatley, I love him. Tyrone Wheatley could have gone pro when he was a junior, held a news conference. Everyone's like, we've seen 100 of these. He gone. And he's a running back. Why would anybody stay around? He's going to be a first-round pick. Go, Ty. And he said, I love Michigan. I'm coming back. And he was fabulous running back. Ended up, doing very well for himself in the pros. Kid came to Michigan for a second. He is at Wayne State. He coached in the HBCU, historically black college. And I had interviewed him once wherever he was at, and I'm listening to him saying, man, Tyrone Wheatley's great. Just listening to him. He also was at the benefit with Woodson, the annual Main Street to support Mott's. He was down there. And I had a friend talking with him, came back and said, man, Tyrone Wheatley's great. But I don't think he's got the experience to be, or the track record to be the head coach at Michigan. I know I went on and on about him, but that's it. I mean, I love Wheatley, but I don't see that. Brandon had been thinking DeBoer. Now I don't think we're getting him. I get Lloyd Carr vibes if we get DeBoer. Oh, you mean Michigan will win a national championship within 3 years? I'm saying, I don't think you're saying it like a nice. I don't think you're being nice about that. About Lloyd Carr. Well, what if he has found the next best thing, Todd Monken? Seems like he's always looking for the next best thing. What's up, Ferris? I'm not going to hold it. I'm not going to hold it against Todd Monken that he stays somewhere. I'll tell you this: if Todd Monken, let's say he is the head coach at Michigan, let's all visualize it for a second. Do we have a picture of him? Maybe that'll help with the visualization. Do we have a photo of him up there? Hold on. There he is. Todd Monken. Load up as much as we can. He's the coach. What was I doing here? Oh, I'm visualizing what it would be like. Let's say he's here for 3 years and takes Michigan to the playoffs in 2 of the 3. And then at the end of the 3rd year, NFL team wants to hire Todd Monken to be their head coach. Well, I don't. Of course, you would say you understand that. I don't know. Maybe a Michigan fan would be like, "What are you doing? You're jumping." We always knew this guy had his eyes, a wandering eye. It would be to be a head coach. Where else would he leave to be a head coach? In college? He liked the pros. Maybe a pro. Just goes, takes over, and I don't want to say Dan Campbell. That wouldn't be nice. Takes over for the Browns in 3 years. Takes over for the Ravens. John Harbaugh stays around for another 2-3 years. Wants to reunite with Lamar. My part about this is that I don't. Maybe I should get a little bit more on edge about hiring guys and feeling like they're going to being worried about them leaving. I don't worry about guys leaving. If Todd Monken was going to leave without getting fired, I would think that he was having success at Michigan. And then it might hurt to see him go because, you just want success for Michigan. You don't care about anything else. I get that. I would say that I would put me in that category too. But I also, if he wanted to go to the Cleveland Browns after 3 years, hell, let's say after 2 years, 2 years to go to the playoffs, and he beats Ohio State. You're like, we got it. And then he wants to go. You got to wish a guy well that way. Because if he wasn't doing well, you'd want him out of here. Then you'd wish him well when you're firing it. RVP, RSP, he's got a DVR, sorry. He's got a report. Or he's referencing a report. He says, reportedly, DeBoer has an extension on his desk. Michigan needs to blow that offer out of the water. We need the proven high-level coach. Well, the extension could be sitting there. His agent could also say Michigan's going higher than that already. Speaking of reports, I did see a tweet from John Bacon. Now look at John. Somebody probably told him 107 million or whatever it was for 7 years, but I did the math. It made DeBoer, over $15 million. Now he's making 13 now. So, you just bump it up to 15. 7 years is a lot. It's a hell of a commitment. And, Alabama wasn't ready to go there. So it could be money and NIL, but it is risky. Do I really think DeBoer would have been like, so he's got the contract with Bama sitting right there, and he's like, he's got Michigan. It's like, we're going 107 for 7 years. We'll wait for you no matter what. Woo! That sounds like Forrest Gump waiting for Jenny. She's like, I'll be right with you. I'm a little worried about that. I'm a little worried that I don't think I could take sitting around on New Year's Day again and hoping that, Alabama gets blown out by Indiana. So then you can hire that guy. Hey, want a playoff game? Well, better late than never. Let's see. We've got, how come I can't put Ted's name up there? Let me try it again. Here he is. Ted gets right to the front of the line. He's dropping a big bag on Christmas Eve. How about that? He is late, but he wanted to hop in and wish a Merry Christmas as well as everyone else. You know what you get for that? Let's give him a little.
Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas!
We have more? That's not it. Where are these keys?
Ho, ho, ho!
Oh!
Merry Christmas!
Isn't this the same one?
Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas!
Music accompany, dry.
Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas!
Nice voice. Just a little bass line. Ooh. Thank you, Ted. I appreciate that. Rich is emphasizing the coaches need a great staff and money as well. Ooh. I've got some tea I'm drinking here. Doesn't look very elderberry tea with a little lemon juice and a little cut of ginger. Green elderberry tea. It's not something you sit around and savor like, just kind of, when it's hot, kind of, I don't know about choking it down, but it tastes a lot better than it does cold. That's my thoughts on it. What's in whiskey? What's in whiskey in my rye, in my eggnog? I'm a little early now. I mean, Christmas Eve. Is everybody off work here or what? We're all just sitting around waiting to see what's going to go on with the Michigan coaching. Search. I'm going to go up here. We had some people getting in here. And Wolverine Jump. Laverne. I'll bet if only 50,000 people showed up to a Michigan game, we could get rid of these Board of Regents. Well, you have to vote them out, right? I've looked at the process. It's not as easy as just getting rid of them. That's the politics, and that's the, I guess you'd say, bottom line with it. Gone are the Michigan Man days. A CEO is what's needed. Well, you need a a head coach, but you need a strong GM. You need a strong personnel director. You need a campaign manager. I mean, you got to be able to do all that to raise funds, head out to mixers, and all that kind of stuff. Wheatley. Now here we've got Wheatley said. Where was Wheatley quoted at? Wheatley could have done an interview with who? A lot of people, I guess. And then he just spilled the beans that Courtney Morgan's coming. Well, Courtney Morgan is at Alabama and he was at Washington. So that's why the belief would be that Michigan's waiting out. He's coming anyways, whether it's DeBoer or not. Hire somebody outside of Michigan. He turns himself into a Michigan man. Then we can use that term again. Yeah, that's fine. I think that's right. Michigan man, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Yeah, look, Dusty May. There's nothing Michigan man about Dusty May. What, he coached at Eastern? I mean, he's not a Michigan man. No worries. We just want a natty. And only 5 teams have 2 undefeated natties. Michigan is one of them. We just need to get clean. Yeah, Michigan football is going to be okay. I mean, you got to take a little. You don't have to. Again, I don't think as a fan, you have to, shave your head and take the walk of shame or something, or have somebody ringing a bell in your face or any of, kind of things like that, or wear some kind of chastity belt. None of that. Oh. Just hang in there. Merry Christmas to Mar and John. Oh, car thing is a compliment. Oh, there you go. Good. Sometimes you miss out on the. Thanks, Brandon. Whether it could be sarcasm or just straight up. Brandon says yes. Like Carr in a good way. He could win a natty or 2 at Michigan. I get it when you say Carr. Carr, had more of a stoic. That's kind of DeBoer. Oh, there's Mr. Martini talking about DeBoer would be liable to leave in 3 years too. Yeah, again, that means he's having success, right? Because if he's not, then people are going to want him out after 2 or 3. So if he's having success, I mean, who are you bringing in? You think he's going to be here for 10 years or even 9? We wanted Jim Harbaugh because he was having success, but a lot of people after 6 years wanted him out, even Jim Harbaugh. So, yeah, I mean, these guys having success. This thing, just look at how everything in sports goes now. It used to be it went around, it's going to be really 10, 12 years with coaches. Look at the playoffs. Oh, the BCS, how long they had that. And then they had the 4. Now they've got the 12 team. People are ready to get rid of that. The first year was in. No, move it. Yeah, if coaches aren't long for their jobs anymore, there's very few guys that are going to be staying around at their job for a long time. WJL says, can any good coach come here and still coach under these regents with them being political? Well, I mean, they're politicians, so it's not like you can. I don't know. Donald Trump wasn't a politician, so I mean, you got to deal with every school is dealing with a board, committees, regents. They all do it. So, yes, a good coach can come here and deal with these particular regions. That kind of stuff, the Acker stuff that got leaked, it's going on everywhere. This one just got aired out. Acker tripped up. But just look at how things, you had, I don't even know the names, but the one dude was, had confidential information. He's, he's got a journalist in his text, he's talking about, we're going to bomb so-and-so. I mean, it's out there now. It's hard to keep all that. In there. There's Teddy. Let's see. Oh, Wheatley was on with Webb. That makes sense. Yeah, well, I don't know why somebody brought him up. Here's Jester J. Biff was right. What are you talking about? The program has been full of his embarrassing behaviors every year. There is something after another. Stop it. No, I'll give my opinion on things, Jesters. That's the way I will do it. I think what you Jesters, you are on a Michigan pod, so you think that I'm like a lot of the other people that cover Michigan and have sat around glossing them for every single thing and acting like that this was some kind of witch hunt and all that. Go back and watch all the pods. I mean, what it does. It really hasn't done great for me. Michigan fans, they don't want to hear all that. They just want positive news. They just want to have fun and enjoy things. I don't want to hear all the negativity and everything else. But Biff has parents saying what you're saying, that every year there's something else. What's going on? And he's said it was messy. Michigan fans aren't used to hearing somebody that's associated with Michigan, calling them out on the carpet. They're used to saying like Michigan did with the, Stallions Gate. Oh, this was wrong. This was wrong. Even when they came back, they were saying they never admitted anything on that, and here was Biff saying it was messy. And so it's tough when Michigan was following along the whole time saying, no, there's nothing messy. This was, there was a lot of other people to blame except Michigan. Blame the AD or, blame the NCAA, not Michigan. So you get the wrong guy here, Jesters, but that's all right. I get it. I don't mind. I understand being lumped in because I actually, I'm covering Michigan, and the majority of Michigan people that are covering them are just glossing them over. So I get what you're saying, but I'm not going to sit around, pounding Michigan into the ground or anything. I don't know what to call Jesus here. I don't even know what it. Biff should not have been made the coach, who was abusive to the staff. If he was actually embarrassed, that is. Yeah, look, Biff is just. Who would you have wanted as the coach? There weren't many great options. And so the players like Biff, and he was just, sure, he could throw his hat into the ring because he is currently technically the coach, but I don't think he ever had a shot to do that. If he can keep everything together, and he looks like he's, I don't know, he might be doing, as much as you might be mad about what he said, he's at least holding things together. Can he just hold it together until they get the next head coach? That's all right. Look, the guy's got his kid played here. His daughter went to medical school. He's got another daughter at medical school at Michigan. He loves Michigan. So, yeah, did they say more? If he could go back and you could say, hey, Biff, let's not be too harsh. He was harsh. That's it. You're out. We'll take 5 more. 5 more. And for that, we got J-Dub talking about Kasula. Oh, are we talking about, what's this, the Free Press gossip story? Nothing against I think Garcia who put that story in. All of that, the I heard from a top-ranking official. I read the story. Where were you guys when anything was going on? After the fact, they're like, yeah, this thing was a total mess, and so was saying this. Enough with the gossip. You high-ranking Michigan official? Is that a regent? Well, don't worry, because Kasula, he ain't going to be around much longer either. The offensive coordinator for the bowl game. I think, these guys, who's staying around? No, Biff should not stay for a year to steady the ship. The ship has 5 holes in it right now with Biff aboard, and it's going down if Biff's on it. What you need is a new captain and a new ship. I don't know if that works for you or not, but Daniel, you just got in here. I believe there's 0 chance that Biff is going to be considered to be the head coach, and there is 0 chance that he should be. Nobody should be talking about Biff. I know you're like, we want to keep their recruits. These guys could leave just as easily if Biff is going to be around. This is what they say. Their players. Yeah, we like Biff. Yeah, what are you going to say? I hate everybody around here. Maybe we'll wait till tomorrow. The freak can drop. They'll have some other high-ranking Michigan official saying, oh, yeah, I don't know. Come out. Put your name next to something. All right. It's Christmas time. Let's go. Let's chill on that. Let's chill. Ron says all season, a majority of fans wanted a new head coach. You got what you wished for. Well, they did. There were, when things, when you lose games, people say they want a new coach. I mean, it was too soon for that, but that's not going to stop people. But your point overall, I believe is correct. That's why we are waiting on DeBoer. Woo! I am hitching my wagon to DeBoer. With a fallback to Monken on January. We get to January 1st. What, if Alabama wins that, then are we not waiting anymore after that? I don't know. I can't see it. Again, I can't myself wrap my head around waiting till January 1st, but they have not brought me in on the discussions and the game planning on hiring a new head coach. Monken, let's make an announcement. They don't have to make it today. I mean, they're going to make it on Christmas Eve at 3:00. I remember a long time ago when I think, what was it, Matt Millen? Did they fire Matt Millen on Christmas Eve? Something like that. The Lions thought, we'll dump him here. There used to be this thing where you'd say, let's get him at the end of the news cycle. You dump somebody on a Friday because the time Monday came around, you felt like, that it had already hit and everything. It doesn't really work now with how things, but it used to when it was just newspapers and stuff. But you're not going to hire somebody on Christmas Eve. What's more important, the hire or the portal? I'll say yes to that question. It's the hire. It's the hire. But you understand that you're hurting yourself if you're DeBoer and Michigan by putting yourself in a position where you're going to wait till the day before it. Is he going to lose within 24 hours? We're out. Come on in. That's why Morgan's up here making all the Lemonade is talking Brom. Yeah, well, you're the only one that's Lemonade that's even, come close to saying anything halfway decent about Brom. No, Jim Scarcelli liked Brom, and I get that. I mean, I think a lot of the reason people don't like Braum is that his big calling card, at least in his career, is that he had success in the Big Ten West, and Michigan fans just got done for the last 2 or 3 weeks bagging on Fitzgerald, like, hey, the guy who won the West sucks. And they're like, hey, we're bringing in a guy who won the West. I'm like, wait a second, we just got done tar and feathering somebody saying they couldn't win it. Now we're supposed to. That's kind of maybe how fans. I get it. Not a home run. You got to be a great evaluator for talent. Here's the last one. Michigan went 9-3 with a coach who was focused on everything but his job. I trust that any of the candidates we're talking about would have done better. How about the sweet basketball avatar? Todd Monken being called a home run. Yeah, Ron, the people that are saying wait until next season are not the kind of, that's just not. You don't throw away seasons. If it's not working, I'm not saying that you would just give whoever would come in 1 year and then get them out, but, you're going to get 2 years. Would I rather just throw this season away? Are you really talking about putting Biff out there? It's not working in my mind. I had this Justin Bieber sound coming in my head where he's got this thing where he says, it's not clocking. It's not clocking to me. Whatever that means. It's not working. This is not a bad point. A current coach can bring players with him. Monken can't. Great point, Hoosier, because let's say it is DeBoer. Michigan will probably lose, again, half dozen to a dozen players in the transfer portal. I don't like saying it, but it probably would happen. But DeBoer could bring half dozen players with him from Alabama. Monken, it's not like Monken can bring Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry are coming to Michigan. We'll take Zay Flowers, too. Mark Andrews, pretty good-looking offense. If they're going to hire Monken, then let's hire him on today, Wednesday, Friday. Let's make the announcement on Friday. And if you want to start spilling it out there, there's a little bit of, Football Scoop had this, and, tomorrow, sure, there's going to be, eggnog is going to be flowing, but, so's Monken's name. Let's do it. Friday. If Monken isn't hired by Friday, or Braum, or Whittingham, then the people's suspicions of Morgan coming around and, coming in town, worst kept secret in town, while DeBoer's, I'd be mad as hell if I was an Alabama fan. I'm getting ready to play in a playoff game against Indiana, and I've got my GM up in Ann Arbor being spotted and DeBoer being courted by Michigan, and hey, he's going to take the job if we lose. I'd be mad. Yeah, I feel like, Friday should be the day. Call it. You're going to go through another weekend? Why? Candidates are here. High upside coach over high floor. Yeah. Sure, and with what you have out there, I think Michigan can win with Todd Monken. So really, I think Michigan could win with the majority of the guys. What we don't know is, how personable and his plan with an interview. That's such a huge thing, but none of us can know that because we're not in there. So we just have to sit back and look at the resumes. But the timing, this is a real issue. Let's talk about the disaster scenario. Michigan waits for DeBoer, and they've cut this deal, and then they win that game. Then what? Are they really waiting around again? Oh, he's going to be in the Natty, and is he really leaving Alabama to go to Michigan? I don't think that. I don't think it's. I can't deal with it. I don't think that. I can't handle that part. That doesn't make sense to me that he would do that. That Michigan would be waiting for him. That they've waited to see, to this point. This is late in the game now. Now it's late in the game. It's Christmas Eve. Waiting for DeBoer makes Michigan look weak and desperate. Well, the best case scenario, I went over the disaster scenario. That would be, Alabama winning and then Michigan sitting around with their what and everything else. And then they got no coach. And then they're going to either hire Jeff Brom or Whittingham or Monken on what? January 2nd, the day the transfer portal opens. Hey, Michigan's got a new coach. You're setting up. I would like to set the next coach up for some success. Let me give him a week. Can I give the coach a week to put together? That's I think you could do it. Can you really, if you don't really know who the coach is, it's just rumors. Are you really going to be able to tell the kids that are on this team or any other kids that are out there that are getting that have all these deals in place and are ready to go, and maybe the only thing that's missing is just a formality. 24 hours before the transfer portal opens up, then all of a sudden Michigan's in play. Let's get on the phone. Let's run it. That'd be a hell of a 24, 48 hours. Woo! Go. It's not fair for the new coach. Hire the new coach on Friday. By Friday. Okay. This conversation is going to continue over on the Maize and Blue Review. Come on in. We got a great deal right now for the rest of, you get the coaching search, the transfer portal. If you're a Michigan fan, you just can't get enough. Some people need to, want to say, I got to push away from the computer. I got to go drink some eggnog. I can't handle the coaching search. I get that. It's nerve wracking. Some people like it. I like it in doses myself. My point is that we're over on the Maize and Blue Review talking about it all the time. Every candidate, every angle, all of it. We'll be doing the same thing. With the transfer portal, you get 50% off your first year as a bonus. You also get a complimentary year of the athletic. I mean, now's the time. Michigan fans, I'm always saying it. Great time. It is a great time right now. I want to wish all of you a very Merry Christmas. Thanks so much for watching the show. We will do it again on Friday. The day that I am anticipating that there's going to be an announcement or a Michigan coach. If not, then, I'll just start yelling again. Let's do it. Thanks, Hunter. You're the man. That deserves a follow. I'll be over on Twitter. Thanks so much, Hoosierine. You got to be happy with Dusty May, huh? That will most certainly do it. Take care, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day, and, of course, tomorrow. I would say that I'm not going to be sitting around thinking about who the next head coach is, but that would be a lie. Come on, deliver 'em.